This video is sponsored by Beltline Hobbies and by the Canfield Train and Toy Show, October 11th, 2026 at the Canfield Fairgrounds in Ohio.
Hi everybody, it's Chris at the Cloverdale Transit Authority, and today I'm finally doing a video about my layout, such as it is. And again, the plan is to do a bigger layout in the basement, but this particular layout started as a Christmas layout, and then eventually it grew into what you see today. So I do a lot of photos and a lot of YouTube and Instagram shorts. And the one question I always get asked from people is, hey, can we see more detail and hear more detail about your layout? And the other thing, whenever I go to train shows, people always say, wow, how big is your layout? I see all the pictures. And I tell them it's not all that big, but being able to shoot the photographs a certain way is important. So I'm going to do this all handheld with my phone so I can move around. So my apologies for any jumpy images. But anyway, so this particular layout, if I can back up without tripping over anything, is here in our solarium, which is kind of our reading room, and it's still our reading room. So we just decided, because we had the Christmas layout in here, one of the Christmas layouts, that we move it to the other side and we do something a little more semi-permanent, even though this was originally designed to completely come apart. And I am going to, in the description for this video, I'm going to leave a number of links to other videos that I've done that have covered the construction of the layout, the wiring of the layout, and the construction of certain elements within the layout. So you can check that out in more detail. But essentially, this is a 42-inch by 75-inch layout, and it is on plywood with some insulating foam, which is wrapped much like a Christmas gift with the grass roll. Different colored grass roll that you get from your train stores, or you can order online or what have you, that have sort of this grassy material. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and the understructure is actually a folding table that is 75 inches long, but not quite 42 inches wide, but it is connected to the top, and drilled through it to do all the wiring. That table is only going to be used for this, but this is designed to all come apart, quote unquote, fairly easily. Another couple of little things. The main power is a Lionel ZW from 1950. And then also there is a DCS commander for MTH PS2 and PS3 locomotives that can be remotely controlled. So, and I bought this stand here on Amazon, and it has a couple of plugs in it, and it has a couple of USB plugs, and it stands right there, and it's perfect, and it fits right in the spot where I need it to fit into. So anyway, again, it's not very big, 42 inches by 72 inches. Track-wise, it is an oval of 036 Lionel Fast Track that goes around the main part of the layout, and then there is an elevated 031 tubular track that just goes in a circle, doesn't really go anywhere, but from a photographic standpoint and from a visual standpoint, it gives depth and texture. So that sits right in the one side of the 036 oval. On the back side of the 036 is a Lionel animated crossing. The lights light up. It does not have the gates. I didn't want the gates. I just wanted the crossing lights. And that goes off into the imaginary rest of the world over there. And then also going into the scrapyard is this turnout, 036 turnout, and it just basically puts a little spur in there. And it's really more decorative than anything else. It's part of the function of the scrapyard. So anyway, so let's take a look at the different elements of this layout. Okay, the two components of the layout is the town section and then the railroad scrapyard and operations section. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the town section. Now, I've got different scenic vignettes in here that kind of, some of them all have sort of backstories. So let's take a look at each one of those vignettes. So the first scenic component here is, of course, the train platform where the locomotives pull up and load people on that are traveling. And the backstory is they're traveling into the big city, which is where they work. And that is where they come in from the rest of the imaginary town where people live. And they come down here via bus. And we've got a couple of buses here. One is a lit bus that's parked there, and there is another bus. And folks come in here and they get dropped off to get the train, and then the reverse happens when they come home from work. So this is the train platform, and there's a little parking area over here where a fellow has pulled up, and also there's a police car with a couple of police officers. And all of these figures that you see on the layout, I have a few woodland scenics, but a lot of them have either been created or improved by my friend Tim, who has been a war gamer for years and is just amazing at painting these figures. And he does a lot of custom ones, including this one down here, which is me. And anybody who knows me knows that I stand like this a lot. And you see the Cloverdale Transit Authority t-shirt and also my Norfolk Southern baseball cap. So he did that one for me as well. But yeah, so you have the police officers over here and you have the train platform over here. And again, you'll see some of the scenic work that I've done that are in other little videos that I'll link to the description on this video. All right, so let's jump over this a little bit, and what we have is the town center, this square, which essentially creates a traffic pattern as cars come in, and they kind of go around this little downtown area. And you'll notice that I used this brick mat that I just happened to find. It was like a one-off. I just happened to find it at a model train show, and I keep adding aging to it so that it's not so glossy, and over a period of time it'll finally end up looking the way that I want it to. But anyway, so I created this little town center with a war memorial, and I bought this gate material. It just came in like 2-foot lengths, and I got that on eBay. And then I also bought this sidewalk material, and I aged that and put grass in there and so forth, and there's people sitting in there. But you'll see a little video about how I built this linked in the description again. And then down here, of course, is our dogs Ike and Mamie, and also our dog Betsy and cat Willie. All of them have left this mortal coil, and we miss them every day. So I wanted to remember them and have them as part of the layout. Now, back here, of course, is the business section of the little downtown area. And these are the little storefronts. And you'll see there's all kinds of little details and mailboxes and Coca-Cola machine. And there's guys over here playing checkers and so forth. And then, of course, where you come into the town. Also, any of my vehicles that are potentially in motion or quote unquote in motion, I have those lit because when I do a night scene, I want those quote unquote moving vehicles to be lit, whereas the park stuff doesn't have to be lit. Also, one thing I'd like to point out in here is I had this Plasticville phone booth that I've had since I was a little kid. And I contacted somebody that I saw they were doing these 3D printed Clark Kents turning into Superman in like a 6-inch scale. And I said, hey, can you make that any scale? Because they're 3D printing them. And they said, yes, what size would you like? And of course, I wanted it down to this scale for O scale. And then my friend Tim painted that. So this is a little Easter egg here in the back corner behind one of the stores. Then the next scenic element in here, of course, is this garden center. Now, the backstory behind this garden center is that originally the road went around these two buildings and out into that imaginary town, but the military needed to build part of an emergency airfield off in that direction where you see outside of our window. That's where the imaginary story of the airfield is, and they put in this rotating beacon. So they closed this street, and you can see there's little brick elements, and I'm going to do more dirt and what have you in here. But this originally started because I went to a train show. My wife and I went to the show, and we found this cool little Plasticville greenhouse, and I thought, well, that's a neat idea for like a little garden center. And so I started developing the backstory and the idea for the garden center. And of course, I used AI to make this Lori's Garden Center for my wife. And I made this sign and mounted it, and then on some board, and then mounted it on this fencing, which of course is once again stuff that I got off of eBay. And I got this MTH camper or mobile home. So these folks bought this little tract of land here that wasn't being used anymore, and moved in and built this little garden center. So a friend of mine makes these, they're actual wood picnic tables and boxes and so forth. And then there's some 3D printed vegetable stands and what have you. And of course, there's a cookout with a dog stealing a hot dog. And there's little flowers. So I found these little bits and bobs on eBay and at train shows. And then also at Hobby Lobby, I found this corn, and I built this little cornfield here. And again, that's another video that will be linked on the description for this video. So that's Lori's Garden Center, and it's kind of a cool little section of the town. I do want to do a couple of different things with this, with the ground cover and so forth, that'll make it a little more realistic. And with this layout, it's a combination of realism and semi-realism. So I'm not really going for 100% real feel to this, but yet I'm doing things that gives it context and gives it, kind of a feeling like a little ground cover here and there. Just kind of detail stuff, which I think is sort of neat. But there's a lot of figures roaming around in here, which you probably have seen people waving to one another and so forth. So yeah, I like to have just a lot of activity going on this layout. So that's the town section, and you'll notice that everything is kind of framed in with these sidewalks and so forth. So that kind of gives it a whole downtown feel. And by the way, I pretty much think I'm done with this layout, because I'm not sure if I can add anything else. I did add this Menards power station, which sits out here on the edge, and it's not really, other than just sitting there, it's not really doing much of anything. So I'm going to do a little more to that, along with this chunk of coal, which I'm going to use for kind of some of the ground around this power station. That chunk of coal actually came out of the tender for the nickel plate 765, which was recently running in our area. And I asked if I could get that piece of coal, and they more than obliged. So it kind of has its own little backstory. So, but also another thing you'll notice as we go around here, that there are some other 3D printed elements, such as these guardrails, and those were done by my friend Shannon, who I keep going to and saying, hey, do you think you can 3D print something like this? And he's like, sure. And he always knocks it out of the park and comes back with some really cool stuff. So, all right. So the next thing we want to do is move over to this railroad operations and scrapyard area. All right. So one thing before I go on, if you do like this video and you like the type of things we talk about here on the channel, please don't forget to click on like and click on subscribe, and the little bell will notify you of when new videos come out. But most importantly, comment on the video and share the video with friends. That really helps us out. And I really like to hear everybody's comments and ideas and some of the things that you're doing on your layout. So anyway, let's start off real quickly with our corner out here. This is a water tower my friend Kyle gave me, and he just said, here, you want this? I took this off of my layout. I don't need it anymore. And so I sort of put it out here, and I had this this tender water. It's not coming out of the tower, but it's piped into the tower. I had that, and I thought, well, these would kind of be cool together. So I've got this out on the corner, and eventually there's like one little window in this thing, and I was thinking about putting a light up in there just to kind of illuminate that window, and it's one of those projects that I haven't really got to yet. So, but one thing that you will notice in the layout is that it does combine modern production model train scenery, figures, stuff, however you want to put it. But it also does include Lionel post-war, such as this bayonet signal, which doesn't do anything. It works, but I don't have it wired into anything. The yard tower, and of course, you saw the signal light. But a lot of stuff like that I've included in there. There is a water tower in the back that's a Lionel post-war. So I've sort of combined those things because I think those things are really cool and I think they look really good. So I just thought I would kind of incorporate those things throughout the layout. They illuminate, they animate, and so I think it just adds to the whole experience. All right, so let me get the camera down in here. So this is a railroad scrapyard because everything you'll see in here is sort of tearing everything apart. Let me see if I can get us down in here for that's one of my favorite shots on the layout. Looking up the gravel drive for the scrapyard, and you'll see that there's a Santa Fe truck there. Again, that is lit, and they are hauling away a piece of equipment that they probably plucked off of an engine. Maybe it's this Lackawanna engine that they're starting to take apart. And so Santa Fe came down here, boxed that up, and now they're going to use that on one of their locomotives. So you see different things laying around here. There's old trucks. There's an old coupler. And this is a Menards building here that I changed the sign on. I kind of put a rusted sign up there. It says Cloverdale Transit Authority. And then inside, you'll see there's a forklift. And because in this, let me see if I can get down in here. Because in this building, there's a lot of electronics that you can see as part of the building. I got these little wooden boxes from my friend again, and I put those up there to kind of hide all that wiring. But yeah, so you'll see a lot of figures standing around. There's the Menards truck that came with this building. I filled it, dirtied it up, and filled it full of coal. I just used scenic cement, and I put the small coal in there and kind of glued it all together so it doesn't fall out. Also, this was an HO gravel. I don't know what it is, a gravel. I think the train went underneath it and it filled it up full of gravel or coal or whatever. But I thought it was really cool, and I dirtied it up, and then I put this ballast in there. So it's just kind of a thing sitting up there. There's the outhouse in the back. There's another pile of old railroad pieces. They basically disassemble and cut apart locomotives and railroad equipment in this scrapyard. So there's several scenes within the scrapyard. So you kind of seen the scene with the building and all these different elements. And then out here, of course, this was a custom painted F3 Lackawanna that my dad gave me. And there's some kind of short in one of the trucks, and I'll be damned, no matter how hard I tried, I have not been able to fix that. So I said, you know what? It's going to go in the scrapyard. Someday maybe it'll run, but I like it better here. So you'll see I've got a lot of figures out here doing some work. Again, a post-war crane is in here doing some of the work as well. And I like this little thing here where the guy, this locomotive also was missing the number boards. The model train was missing the number boards. So I created a number board, which is 6351. That's the actual number off of a Lackawanna F3. And he has removed that number board, and of course it's sitting there on that scaffolding. These guys are up on top. They're going to start cutting things apart and unbolting things. And again, my friend Shannon, he 3D printed and I painted this scaffolding, which is really cool. And he found it's very spindly, very, thin, but it looks great along here so that you see that they can climb up on top, and they've got the scaffolding so they can work up and down on this locomotive, starting to take it apart. Also, one of my favorite things here in the back is a scene, and it is lit, and you can kind of see it here in the light, where the two welders are kind of cutting apart things, and you see things sparking underneath there, and you'll see there's grass growing on here. I got this from my friend Kyle. This was a broken chunk of a post-war Lionel. I think it was a Scout, probably from the 50s, and I think somebody dropped it, and it cracked in half, and I said, can I have that? And he said, sure. So my plan was I built the little crib underneath there to hold it up, and that these guys are cutting this old boiler, an old steam locomotive, apart because it was this broken piece of an old Lionel train. So, and here's the yard shop. You'll see there is junk sitting all over, some of them brand new boards, again, from my friend who makes all the wooden stuff. And then you'll see there's pallets and chain link fence sections. And you'll notice that the whole scrapyard is surrounded by this Woodland Scenics chain link fence all the way around, except for the driveway. And then here you've got guys who are digging gravel, and some guys that are digging coal or cinders. And there's also some railroad ties that I made, scrap railroad ties. So there is all this stuff sitting around. And by the way, underneath this 031, I have these little tiny lights that plug in, these little LEDs, and it helps light the whole thing up. And at Christmas time, I changed these to another set like this, but they are multicolored, so it gives it kind of a Christmas feel. And I replaced the war memorial in there with a little lit Christmas tree for the center of town. So, so the last thing I wanted to show you was what I'm doing in the back. And you can see that I have these flat buildings. They're all wood. They're all hand painted and stenciled. And I just bought 2 of them at York from a gentleman who does these, an older gentleman. And I'm going to go back to York and I'm going to buy some more so I can extend it to go completely behind this layout, because that way it sort of blocks, looking straight out the layout into my driveway and my neighbor's yard. But also it gives it texture, and there's 3-dimensional components to this. So I think it's really, really cool. And I bought this one. It says Sherwin-Williams. Of course, Sherwin-Williams is a Northeast Ohio company. So I thought that was kind of cool. But he had a bunch of other ones, and I've measured this out. So I'm going to make sure, other than where this crossing is, I'm going to make sure that I have a number of buildings after York in October that will go along the back. So that's going to be pretty cool. And again, that gives it a really good dimension. But anyway, so I was talking about 180 miles an hour with that. But here is my model train layout such as it is right now. I'm really happy with this. We enjoy sitting out here in the evenings and running trains, and it's a lot of fun. And yes, will we be building a bigger layout? We absolutely will be building a bigger layout in the basement, but we'll also maintain this one because we love the story that it tells, and it gives us a chance to run trains up here and have people come over and see them, and it adds another element at Christmas time as well. So anyway, that's the detailed tour of the layout that you've been asking for. I very much appreciate it. Once again, thank you so much for all your support. We really love doing these videos for you, especially ones like this where we get to show off all of the hard work that we've been putting in. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next video.